Hi everyone and welcome to Game Creation. So I hope you enjoyed our debut week last week and thank you very much for the comments we've already received. So this week we're going to continue where we left off. Remember, our philosophy is to finish with a minimum viable product at the end of each week. So to set a goal in our Monday video and have reached that goal by the Friday. There's no guarantee we always will do that, but normally with some cutting down of time and some frustration, which hasn't happened yet, but there's always a time where I spend an hour trying to solve a problem that comes up, and I'm not going to make a video an hour long of me frustrating. However, this week there will be some times where I've made small errors, planned or otherwise, and the or otherwise are ones to spot, where I've made some planned errors or some accidental errors and I've left them in because I think it's really important for you, because sometimes with these videos everything goes perfectly the whole time and nothing ever goes wrong, and actually it's really difficult for you to figure out what to do when something actually does go wrong and when something comes up that you're like, oh, how do I fix this? So you'll see me play the game and it just not do at all what it's supposed to do, and then see kind of my thought process of how to fix it. The important thing is not to write the right code the first time. No one ever does that. The important thing is to be familiar enough about what you're doing to be able to track down where the code's broken and to test it regularly. The testing is really important because with big projects that I've done before, you are so focused on the deadline, you have to complete this by this date. You're so focused on getting all the code written that you've forgotten that you haven't actually tested it for maybe an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. And you're like, oh, hang on, wait a second. If I test it now, I have no idea what code has broken. It could be anything over the last 3 hours, and that is not a good place to be. Clickteam actually make it so easy. You just click on it. You don't have to wait for it to compile. You don't have to copy it to a different folder. It just runs straight away, and that's why I love Clickteam Fusion. I think this week will also show the differences between Clickteam Fusion 2.5 and 2.5 Plus. I have the Plus edition. I will highlight how to do everything without the Plus edition, and I'm not as familiar with the Plus edition, so I'm having to do a bit of background research, and there's definitely something we're going to do this week that is Plus only, but I will absolutely show you how to do it without the Plus version, because I know there's probably a few of you out there that haven't upgraded, and that's absolutely fine. The Plus version doesn't completely reinvent everything. There's nothing you can't do on the 2.5 that you can do on the Plus version. The Plus version's more about making things easier and quicker, and you'll see that this week, that there's an addition to the Plus version that just makes things so much simpler. So what's our objective this week? Well, if I switch over to my sketchbook, at the moment we've got a player here, and the player just suddenly jumps to the right if we click the right button, and suddenly jumps down. And so obviously that's not ideal. We don't want the player to just keep jumping and jumping. It was good enough for last week. It hit our criteria, but we want something more like, if I click right, then I get an animation happen. And we're not going to do the graphics for it, but we want it to gradually get there. And we kind of need to know a little bit about how animations happen, like how did Disney do their magic? And I'm pretty sure everyone watching this understands that video is not as magical as it looks. It's actually a collection of pictures put together, okay? And that's why you've got 30 frames per second, which this 30 frames per second, which this video is filmed in, and 60 frames per second. It just means how many pictures are shown per second. So in 60 frames per second, in 1 second, there's 60 pictures being shown, and that's it. And it can't get any simpler than that. So when we have this animation, we've got to just slightly move this object very, very quickly, and then we've got a nice little animation there. Now the actual sprite itself will just remain the same. It will just look like it's moving across, and there's definitely a point between it jolting across like that and it looking like it's smoothly moving, and it's because your eyes are trained to pick up on stagger to a point and then what your eyes do is go, oh, hang on, it's not staggering, it's moving nice and softly. There's a sweet spot where it looks like it's jolting, and it looks like it's just moving smoothly. And so with testing in this week, I'm looking at getting that sweet spot to a point it's bearable, but I know it's something that I'll change down the line. And that brings me to the last thing I want to do this week. I want to start coding this in a way that I can make changes later on. So if I change my mind and think, actually I needed to get the player to move quicker, or the player picks a power up and suddenly goes quicker, I want to be able to just change that without having to go back through the code or without some complicated thing happening. I just want to change one thing and suddenly the player moves at a different speed. So it's quite an ambitious week. I think the videos this week will be much longer. As before, and there's been a few suggestions so far, which I'm really happy with. But as before, if there's any suggestions you have about future videos, or things that you're not quite sure how to do that you want us to put in there, or different ways of which to do anything that we do, please let us know. And I'm always happy reading stuff. I've read all the comments from last week. I'm really happy with. Some really good suggestions in there as well, which I was very happy to read. And yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you want to see more from us, please click subscribe. We release videos every single weekday at 7 PM UK time. Thank you.